Back when I was on reserve, I had an out of base reserve trip, which is basically where instead of having a trip that starts in DFW, where I'm based, it was starting in Chicago. Therefore, the company that I'm working for will purchase me a ticket to fly me to Chicago to start my 3-day trip. The trip will end in Chicago, and then I will have a deadhead back to DFW, where my home is. So this 3-day trip, I'm with a Chicago crew, and they're all based there. I was the only one who was based in Dallas. So I get there, we work the 3 days, and then boom, we're done. Nothing significant with that trip. However, I did have a deadhead. So let's say my trip ended at 12, like my 3-day trip ended at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and the company was going to deadhead me back to Dallas. The best way to explain a deadhead is basically where the company is paying you to be a passenger on the flight to get to said destination, whether it's to your base or to another base. Did I mention you get paid? Yes, you get paid to basically do nothing. You can sleep, you can eat, you can talk on the phone. Well, obviously you can't talk on the phone because you're gonna be on airplane mode, but you don't have to work. You can sleep and look at TV and you're getting paid. Keyword, paid. Okay, if all my flights were deadheads, I would do that. I will gladly pick up a trip from Dallas to Tokyo just to deadhead and come all the way back, as long as I'm getting paid to do nothing. But that doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's a pro. In terms of cons, which would really be a reach, but if I had to say a con is that if you're on the way to work to start a trip and they're deadheading you, then of course you cannot have anything to drink. You can't have any alcohol. Now, if you were deadheading home and you're done with your trip, you have to be 1, out of uniform, and then 2, not working a trip, then you could have a drink. But I've never really been super pressed about having a drink on board, so I typically go to sleep, read a book, or watch TV. That's all I'm concerned about. Anyways, our trip ended at 12 p.m. and they had a deadhead scheduled for me at 3:30. So that's sitting in the airport, in the Chicago airport, for 3 hours. There was a earlier flight that went from Chicago to Dallas at, I believe it was 1:30, and we arrived early. So instead of taking that deadhead, I booked myself a non-rev ticket from Chicago to Dallas. I chose the 1:30 one. Now, I can still get paid for the other flight that I did not take. I just let them know that, hey, I chose another flight, but I'll still get paid as if I did take the flight that was supposed to be at 3 o'clock. Anyways, I get on the flight, and there's 2 flight attendants. We're on like a smaller plane, so it's just 2 flight attendants. I never worked with these 2 individuals, but one of the flight attendants, she was like, oh my God, like, you work for the same company, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh yeah, I do. And she's like, I've never seen you before. And I'm like, I mean, there's plenty of people I've never seen, but okay. So, you know, we're having a small conversation. She asked to see my employee badge, because the badge is gonna be the same picture that everyone sees. So she looked at the badge and she was like, oh, I know who you are. Like, I know people who've worked with you before. And I'm like, okay. Side note, these flight attendants talk, okay? Anytime flight attendants are friends, they're gonna talk, they're gonna ask each other, hey, have you ever worked with so-and-so? Have you ever worked with this person, that person, that person? And they want the full tea, because they wanna know, is this person gonna be annoying? Is it gonna be an experience where I'm walking on eggshells? Are they lazy? Do they do their job? Do they get into it with passengers often? Like, these are all important questions. So I understand that people are always like, hey, have you worked with her? Have you worked with him? Because you need to get a heads up before you just walk on board with someone and the energy is just off. So I'm sitting in main cabin extra, which is behind first class, so I can see what's going on up there. There's a forward and there's the aft flight attendant. So the forward flight attendant, this is the wicked one. We're gonna call her the wicked one. And The app flight attendant, I don't know what was going on, but like, she just looked tired. Like, that's the best way. She looked exhausted, as if she worked 10 flights before she worked that one, and that was their first flight of the day. I don't know why she was looking so tired, but tired and wicked. Wicked, she just looked like, I don't know, everything was dramatic, okay? To the claws, to the contacts, to the hair hat, to the makeup, to the eyeliner, to the, everything was very like in your face, very Wicked Witch of the West vibes. So we gonna call her Wicked, right? So Wicked is the flight attendant in first class, and I noticed that she's doing the beverage service. However, okay, let me show y'all what she's doing. I'm gonna act like these are all cups, right? She is holding 3 cups like this, and then she's asking the people in first class, would they like some water? Because all of it is water. And she's just like, she's holding it like this, but then as she's giving them the cups, she's like touching the lip. Like, girl, so unsanitary. So she's touching the lip on all of them, and the people in first class are just drinking it. Like, you don't know where her hand's been. But I'm in main cabin extra, so I'm just, you know, watching from the sidelines like, ew, how unsanitary. So she's passing out the waters and stuff, so I noticed that, and I was just like, I had to hop on here and let y'all know, please don't touch the lip. Like, ew, that's where people drink, and we don't know where your hand's been. It's just unsanitary. Like, hold the cup here, not all the way up here. Fast forward, we take off, and immediately I fall asleep because I had already worked 3 flights that day, so it's nothing for me to go to sleep. I go to sleep, and I am suddenly awakened by the Wicked flight attendant literally yelling, "Seatbelts on! Tray tables up!" She is, I can't even do my voice like that. Like, she sounded like a sergeant. It was so loud. She didn't even need the interphone. That was just her projecting her voice. The entire plane heard her. It was so abrupt. Like, I woke up out of my sleep like, what's going on? Because she was yelling. And then as she's walking down the aisle, act like this is a tray table. There was a passenger that was on their laptop with the tray out, right? She comes by and she's like, put this up, put it up, put it up. Like, why are you touching their stuff? Why are you touching the tray table? She did that to everyone whose tray was out. She was just like, put it up, put it up, put this up. Like, literally slamming her claws on that tray table and pointing at people like, seatbelts, put them on, seatbelts. Where's your seatbelt at? Put it on. Waking people up, just put your seatbelt on. It's time to get up. We're about to land. It was such a negative experience. Like, as a passenger, I was disgusted. I was like, is this what goes on the flights that I don't work? Because no, ma'am. I cannot believe she was that loud. Like, it was to the point where I have to talk about it to y'all. Honestly, if I was a Karen and I truly had time on my hands, I would write a review. Like, I would send in a note. Like, this was unacceptable. I did not pay for this. But I don't care like that at all. Like, when I get off the flight, it doesn't even matter. But still, now I can see why these passengers get so upset. That was honestly the only time in my entire life where I've been on a plane and the flight attendant was super unpleasant. Like, I've never experienced that before, ever. Like, I'm shocked. I'm still shocked. I can't believe she was yelling like that, and she was so, I don't know. She was just giving big sergeant vibes. It was not a good experience. Now, let's say she did have someone on board that was so annoyed that they actually sent in a nice little email that she was off the chain, being wicked and loud and disturbing my peace. Okay, boom. Passenger sends that email. That's when you start getting secret shoppers on your flights, okay? It starts with a complaint. It starts with a complaint. Someone complains that you were not given top-notch service, you were not nice, you were rude, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. They will send, and I'm saying it's secret shoppers because I forgot the actual word that they call them, but basically people who are on the plane that actually work for the company that are acting as passengers, but they're really there to see exactly how you are doing business on the plane, like, because we don't have cameras, so everything is kind of word of mouth. So they have to send someone in, a spy, to look at, okay, is she doing her job? Is she passing out the cookies? Is she being nice? Is she being condescending to the passengers? Because we have a few complaints. Please be mindful of how you are speaking to the passengers and be sure that you are doing all parts of your job because you never know who's watching. And also when it comes to like people in first class, there are people in first class who fly all the time, so they know how things are supposed to go, how you're supposed to act, when you're supposed to do service and things like that. So just be mindful of that, of how you're acting. Like, definitely I don't suggest cutting corners because you just never know who's on your flight, who's watching you. Aside from passengers making write-ups, you're gonna have other flight attendants who are gonna make note of their experience working with you, and that's how your name gets put on the do not bid list, okay? Because you're not a pleasure to work with, and no one wants to work with someone who is dramatic like that. I personally don't. Y'all, come on over to Patreon so we can talk about the worst flight attendant I've ever interacted with. She did way too much for me. It's to a point where not only is she on my do not bid list, but when you put someone on a do not bid list, bidding is another word for requesting. If my request does not go through, and I did have to work with her, I'm willing to pay to give up that trip, okay? I'm willing to pay. That's how annoying she was. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you ever been on a flight and the flight attendant was just not your cup of tea. Let us know what happened. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.